Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Season 4, activating awareness, well-being, intimacy, and self-mastery. I am your host, Washela Sananda, and today I have the pleasure of introducing you to two wonderful people. I have Elisa Medhus. Welcome, Elisa.
Hi there, how are you?
Wonderful. And Courtney Dillon. Welcome, Courtney.
Thank you for having me today.
My pleasure. So before we jump in, and this is going to be amazing, so I'm really excited for this, I want to invite everyone to do a very brief alignment connection meditation to get us present and ready for this, whatever's going to come through today.
With Eric, you never know.
You never know, right?
And by the way, hi Eric. I love you.
Hi Eric. Yes. And
He's
some
saying
people might be
thank
saying,
you.
who's Eric? So you will find out very soon, I promise. All right. So I invite everyone to just begin by closing your eyes and tuning into the breath. Deepening the breath and getting present in your body. Getting present in your heart. And now making contact with the light in your heart and bringing that heart light glowing out around the chest, circulating around the body. And now bring your awareness to join your heart light to this heart of the central sun far above your head, tuning into the heart light of the central sun. And making contact and bringing that divine masculine energy down to the top of your head, through your spine, into your heart center, and then all the way down to the base of the spine, continuing down all the way to the center of the earth, making contact with the heart of the Mother Earth, and feeling her nurturing, loving, divine feminine energy, bringing that up through the roots of the earth like liquid crystal plasma into the base of your spine and up, joining now in your heart center with the light from above and the light within, creating a holy trinity of light. And let this light be a portal of focus so that each one listening receives whatever is for their highest good, whatever is most uplifting and most helpful to you on your journey today. And with that, I invite you to come on back, open your eyes, and we will jump right in. I would love to begin by introducing Elisa Medhus, because she is just this amazing being. So Elisa is an internist who practiced medicine for 30 years, and she's authored 3 award-winning parenting books. And then after her son Eric died at age 20, Elisa she found that she was able to connect with him through mediums, and that she was able to ask him questions about death, about the afterlife, about all kinds of things, and tune into so much amazing information. And Elisa has written a book called My Son and the Afterlife, Conversations from the Other Side. And Eric has even authored his own book called My Life After Death, a memoir from heaven. So there's so much to explore here. And so Courtney is a medium, and we had a little shift of mediums very recently. So I don't have your bio, Courtney, but would you share a little bit about your background so people know who you are?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. I'm Courtney Dillon, and I work as an intuitive and a medium. I also work a lot with the Ascended Masters and Archangels and do energy healings for people. So you can find me at CourtneyDillon.com.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So I'm new to all of this. Elisa, you know, I would love for you to kind of share how did this all happen for you, and what made you decide to step into, because I know you shared that you were not very woo-woo before all of this happened. That was not your world. This channeling stuff wasn't part of your reality, and that's not how you were raised. So I know a big shift was made, and now this is really your life's work. Do you want to share a little bit about how this came to be?
Sure. Of course, after Eric died, it was very difficult for me because I was raised by two atheists. Now, I was not an atheist, but I just really didn't think about life after death. And I didn't think about whether there was a God or anything like that. I don't know why. But as a physician, that's some sort of a scientist, I felt like for something to be real, you had to perceive it with one of your senses or, measure with an instrument, right? Or it didn't exist. So that, and, my parents being atheist, and my father was not very nice. I mean, his first words after I said, screaming that Eric died, was, sorry, he's going to turn to dust. That's how hardcore atheist he is. So I was just so lost. I didn't know what to think. I mean, was Eric gone forever from my life? I mean, we were so close and still are. And so 3 days after Eric's death, my father called, and there was panic in his voice. He said, Elisa, I don't understand. I was sitting in my chair reading my Wall Street Journal, and I looked up and there's Eric standing in front of me like in the flesh. Then he turned into his little boy self, crawled up into my lap and whispered in my ear, things come in threes. Never figured that one out, but maybe Courtney can get that from Eric. And he said, I'm so startled. I don't know what to believe. And it's like, oh my God, my father would not say that to make me feel better. Hence his first words to me after I reported that Eric was dead. And so I thought, well, my gosh, then maybe he is still somewhere. And so I started reading all sorts of books about quantum physics, about, of course, near-death experience, controlled studies with mediums, just, everything, parallel universes, parallel dimensions. I read everything I could at least understand. And then by that, eventually my bookshelf started sagging and I ran out of books that were not too complicated. And so I decided to do what I knew or heard that a lot of parents did out of desperation, connect with a medium. Now, to me, a medium's like, I didn't know what to think about mediums. I thought, well, maybe they can look through wormholes. That's why they're psychic. And I had to have all this science behind it. But anyway, so I started communicating with a medium. And the first medium, Jamie Butler, I really gave her no information except for my name and my credit card number, pretty much. And the first thing she said was, this guy here, he says, he's your son. He says he killed himself, and he said he shot himself, and he used this gun. He was wearing this kind of stuff, and he curses like a sailor. So yeah, that's Eric. And so we had our first session, and of course, most of it was just, why and what could I have done, and did it hurt, and all those kind of things. But eventually, sessions led into, what is death like? What is crossing over like? What is the afterlife like? What is love? What is God? Have you seen God? Blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, my daughter, who was a second-year medical student at the time, created a blog for me because she knows her mom. I mean, I heal best when I help others. So we started the Channeling Eric blog, mostly for people who grieve, not only, but mostly for people who grieve, to have a place where they're supportive and encouraged and loved so that they can express their grief. I mean, to get through grief, you have to lean into it. And so at the same time, he started pulling all sorts of pranks with me and my family, but also with blog members. It was just so amazing. I mean, I remember, one of the first was every time my husband came in from the garage into the kitchen through that door, the downdraft vent, would go up and down like saying hello. And it would do that. It did that 3 days in a row. So the cool thing about that is that we were remodeling the kitchen. There was no power to the kitchen. There was no electricity to that vent. And then he would turn on water faucets all the way, not just a drip. He would lock when we were getting ready to go outside to the into one of the cars in the garage, we would see the deadbolt locking us in. Just he would manifest airsoft BBs in the ceiling and then drop them to the floor. I mean, I mean, I even saw him one night when I was about to go to sleep. I started to lay my head down on the pillow, and there was Eric jumping from one side of the bed, a corner foot of the bed to the other, back and forth like a little bunny rabbit. And my deceased sister Denise was sitting on the left-hand corner, looking at him and smiling. And I was like, "What? I know I'm not asleep." And then he looked at me and looked startled and said, "Mom, you can see me." And he fell into my arms and we hugged. And it felt so solid. So anyway, we continued that, to make YouTubes about life after death. We started channeling notable figures like Jesus, and you can hear his voice actually on the recording in EVP. Plus, he left all sorts of really interesting EVPs. The EVPs experts like R. Craig Hogan and Ron Lederer, they say that the clearest EVPs that they've ever heard. I mean, you can, like, I was being interviewed on a radio show, and I'll wrap this up. I get long-winded. He might do this. Eric, you might leave an EVP. After the interview, the next day, she called me and said, "Alisa, I was listening to our interview and I heard a voice that was not heard live." And so I said, "Really? Okay." So anyway, there at that timestamp, Eric said, "Minions." I mean, like that loud. And then Jamie, the medium, same medium, started chuckling and saying he's calling them minions. I mean, that's just one of so many EVPs that he has that he's left. So that's it in a nutshell.
Wow, that's amazing. Really amazing. I love that you're doing this, that you brought this through and you're bringing this to the world, to go from being a doctor to being, like in the world of channeling is such a big move. And I just want you to know, I really appreciate it. I know so many people really appreciate it. And this is why you have such a big following. But,
I love the Spider family. I love them very much.
Yeah, it's amazing, and we crave this information.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's step into what's next. How do we bring in Eric and start to ask some questions or get some information or see what he has to share?
He's already here, so he says thank you, and he wanted to say, he was talking about signs. Signs come in threes.
Oh, okay. That was it.
Yeah, signs. And the story, a part of the story with the vent, he said, notice 3 days in a row.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that's part of it. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
You wanted to respond to that question. So, yes, he is here. He says, thank you for having me.
Great. Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for being here. So is it okay if I ask a question?
Of course.
Absolutely.
You can ask as many as you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're trying to tone down the F-bombs, please.
He says he'll work on it.
Whatever comes through. If I have to edit, I will, but I don't think I have to. So anyway, I wanted to kind of start with more of the 3D and then move into some of the higher realm type of questions, depending on what we have time for. But this is a big one, and I know it's on a lot of people's hearts right now. This is about the state of the world. And so, Eric, from your perspective, I'm just really curious. There's so much mixed information about COVID, about the vaccines, about the lockdowns, about masks. What is going on? And, particularly with the injections, there's so much mixed information. Is this nefarious? Will it harm the human race? Will it save the human race? Is there something going on with the government, the administration that we need to be wary of? And what would you advise us?
This is really interesting that you bring this up, because my daughter's anesthesiologist, she has a blog, ChristinaBrawley.com, which is amazing. And she's had a lot of people come and say, well, I heard that these vaccines are, so me as a physician, my perspective, and Eric, you can prove me wrong if you want, is that all this conspiracy about the vaccine being nefarious and making people sterile and all that stuff, I think it's just fear driven. And, you know, sometimes as a collective thinks that fear, and then leads their life in fear, then that thought creates reality. It's all physics 101, people. That can actually create that kind of reality. So I personally, as a medical doctor, think that you should be, I'm vaccinated, and to live life in love. And that's all. But Eric, what do you say?
He did show me, as soon as you were starting to answer the question, that there's like multiple layers of things going on here from multiple vantage points, dimensional perspectives. So it's very difficult. That's why it's almost like this cloudy confusion. That's why we're having that, because it's like we're seeing it from different vantage points. From one vantage point, exactly what you're saying is correct, that there are people, this is a real virus, that's true. This is to be taken seriously, and that can, the injection can assist. If he doesn't want me to use the word because there's going to be problems with that, the injection can assist in then saving people. From another perspective, humanity is being pushed against a wall, so that it's like backed against the wall, so that they can awaken to who they truly are. So there's two agendas at play. It's not just one thing, right? Humanity is being backed against the wall with restrictions and imposed freedom being stripped away. So that is also true, right? So it's like important that we recognize this from several vantage points and perspectives. Nothing will have any power over us unless we believe it will.
It's all intention. That's so true. But Eric had a whole thing about the COVID having a positive thing, and that, like you're saying, it's forced us to stay home in lockdown, and hopefully use that as an opportunity to think, reflect. And we never really do that very much.
No, and he's saying that's another one of the vantage points.
Okay.
Right. To see the positive that comes out of this, that COVID allowed us, well, and is continuing, if we take it that way, to go within our heart center, to stop and examine aspects of our life that are not working, or he's saying running on autopilot. Like a lot of people were sort of just going through the motions of what they were told to do or what they thought they needed to do for their life. And this changed the game, right? So it's really, one thing that's interesting he's saying is any viewpoint, you can get enough evidence right now to support your perspective. Like that's how strong it is. And that's why it's like he's showing me it's like different timelines that people are vantage points. And so that's why it's very difficult to make sense of it. But the most important thing is to go within your heart right now, because that is the actual way home. He said this.
Yeah, beautiful. I think that's always the answer, ultimately for whatever we're confronted with, is to look within, find your truth. Beautiful.
That's true.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So my next question is, what can we do to make the most progress towards self-mastery when we're in our human lives?
Ooh, I like that one.
He's showing me a lot of emotions coming up for humans right now. There's a massive clearing happening on the planet. It's just beyond anything we can even recognize. But as these emotions are released, that were stored in our energy field as trauma, right, from various lifetimes and this lifetime, it's important that we, as you were saying, It's interesting that you said you going into grief is the way through it, because he's echoing that. It's like, we need to right now, the more that we go into what we're feeling, and we move into it from a place of, he calls it non-resistance, right? It's very difficult because when we're not for the, the peace and love and joy, those are easy. But when we start to feel the shame come up, you're saying shame's a big one right now that's clearing from the human collective, the grief, the anger, the sadness. It's not to stay in it. We don't want to stay and swim in it, but we want to feel it and accept it and process it. And you don't even have to know, he's saying this is important to understand. You don't have to understand where this feeling is necessarily coming from. Like, you don't have to know where the origin point to clear it right now. And we can do this really fast, because in our process, in our move towards self-mastery, this and these emotions are not coming, this trauma is not coming with us, right? So it's just about going into it and fully surrendering.
Roxella, he's said this through several mediums over and over again. Honor your feelings, feel them, immerse yourself in the feelings. Because what you resist persists, and you're going to have trapped emotions. And guess what that causes? Disease and other things. So.
It causes disease, and he also shows me a hamster wheel. So it causes us to just stay on the hamster wheel of behavior and pattern. And it's like, we're just kind of like going trapped. But he wants to emphasize that this is a real retraining of the human collective right now, because we have been taught to just suppress, right? And so this is a really new way. It's not new, but it's a new way that we're being taught to feel our feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of my training. I do a course called Embodied Ascension Training, and that's the very beginning, is digging into feeling the feelings that we've been pushing away our whole lives in most cases, because we're naturally, as humans, we run away from the bad feelings, or we suppress, or we drink, or we, smoke something, or, just to suppress those feelings because they're uncomfortable, and we're designed to go for comfort, not discomfort. And so it is a relearning, a retraining, a recoding our system. Absolutely. To be able to feel what's there and let it go. And then, even the people that get too deep into grief and stay there, we've all seen that, right?
Yeah.
We don't overcome. It's not enough, we don't want to get stuck in the mud, or, we want to be able to feel it, honor it, acknowledge it, release it, let it go, and move forward. And so beautiful.
Okay, so Eric, I can have a real quick question. So Courtney does healing. What can she help people with these trapped emotions? Or Courtney, you can answer that too. How
he's smiling. I'm just reporting what he says. He said, well, there's a reason we picked her, Mom.
Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. And just to answer as myself, yes, I do help people with emotional energy that needs to move, and even when I do medical readings, I mean, there's an emotional component that needs to be released. Always.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that. And I'll be sure to include, Courtney, I'll include your contact information as well, so people can reach out and get, if they want a reading, if you do medical readings or whatever kind of reading, then they'll be able to reach you.
Yeah, she's a great medical intuitive. She really is. I've used her for that with great success too, personally.
Wonderful. Yeah. Medical mediums are so powerful, and just to have that insight from another perspective. We honor the doctors, and we appreciate all different types of understanding, right?
Right.
So this is pretty basic, and I know it's been addressed in the books, but for those who haven't read the books and maybe are just being exposed to this realm of information, what happens to us when we die?
What I'm hearing is it depends on your belief about death. So he's showing me that we have so many choices, he says. We have so many choices in life and in every moment, but also we have choices in death, right? So how we want to experience the transition depends largely on your beliefs about transitioning. So he's showing me moving toward the light, almost like as if there's a light and that we sort of have the choice to move toward the light and transition fully, right? And we are met with beings and people who support us in our journey of life. And also people we like, for example, if you love and believe in Jesus, for example, in your lifetime, you'll be met, by Jesus, right? Because it depends on our belief. So that's just an example, right?
So it's come to Jesus meeting, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
On the scientific aspect that Eric shared with me, when you die, well, first of all, he said the soul is tethered to the hollow space in the microtubules in the cell. And the microtubules give the cell structure, but also, it helps with cell division, etc. But then the energy between that space and your soul just increases until it gets to be too much, and sparks, and then it releases, and the soul is released from the body from those spaces. And he also said that in many cases, the energy keeps building and building and building between these two types of energy, so that spontaneous human combustion occurs. And these are usually people who have a hard time letting go, like hoarders.
Yeah, he was saying that when you were saying that, he was saying that if you have like resistance to death, right, or you're having a hard time letting go, then that occurs. He's showing me like a cartoon explosion.
Yeah,
I thought it was interesting what he said.
It seems like that doesn't sound like the easiest way to go. Like maybe is there some advice? How about this for people that are, obviously we're all going to go at some point, right? So what could make the transition easier?
Oh, I love that question.
The first thing I heard is the way you live is the way you will die in transition. So meaning if you live in, this is a beautiful phrase, surrendered acceptance of your life, seeing your life through the lens and through the eyes of spirit. So meaning that you see all things that happen to you from a place of love and surrendered acceptance. Not that you enjoy everything. He wants me to clarify. There's a lot that will happen that we won't necessarily enjoy, but we can see it from this place of surrender. I'm going to start using that, surrendered acceptance. It's so beautiful. And but he shows me that you will die in a place of surrendered acceptance, understanding that you are a spirit and this is just a transition, right? If you are he shows me like gripping, really like holding on. He's like, you're holding on for dear life. Even in life, like you're gripping and you're worried and you're constantly judging everything, then you will, and not to be rude, but you will also transition that way, and it will be a lot more difficult.
Well, that's interesting because, well, you could attest to Poppy, my father, your grandfather, Eric. He had a life of pain, mostly because he created pain for a lot of people. And he died such a painful death. He exsanguinated into his retroperitoneal space in his abdomen. And it's probably the most painful, but short of being burnt alive, it's got to be one of the most horrible ways to go. So that makes sense in his situation, right?
He's saying that was the purpose of that. Sometimes, though, pain has a there's a soul purpose for pain.
Mhm.
Like, this is maybe a hard one for some people to hear, right? But
Yeah.
he's saying that there's a soul, sometimes there can be, it depends, there's different, it's almost like there's always these different perspectives, right?
Mhm.
But there's can be a soul purpose for pain, meaning someone could choose to experience great pain in the physical body because it will assist them in going deep within their heart center. And there becomes a place of self-realization. So yes, that's true. And there's also this other purpose for pain sometimes in the physical body. So
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, thank
you're
you.
welcome.
So then stepping past that point of release or surrender, I know it's different for each person and who you're met by and probably the relatives that show up and things, but going forward then, it seems like, Eric, you have taken a path of kind of keeping your energy around to inform humanity and to assist in some way with humanity's ascension. So is this unique? Is this a very unique thing to you? Do lots of souls do this? Or does everyone have a different place that they go to for their next phase? And could you give us an example of that if that's the case?
First, he's speaking about himself. It looks like he's showing me his contract even before, he's showing me his contract even before he crossed over. It was written in his contract that he would be a guide and a healer and a teacher. I mean, he's really a teacher a lot of times for people. He's teaching them. And yeah, he's saying that. So this was it was part of what he came here to do. And he's still here. He's still here. He wants to be clear. So he's still here and he's here to teach. And he's just showing me that there's this big soul group that was meant to receive his teachings, and some still have not. And each soul is unique in their choice and in their evolution. So some souls will transition and they'll be working on personal development. They will be working on a particular group of lessons. I mean, and he's saying not everybody is meant to ascend in this lifetime, although this is a period of ascension and great awakening. So there are many who will choose to ascend. So it just depends on that soul's path and evolution, what they will choose to do in he goes like this, afterlife, because from his point, it's just a continuation.
After human or whatever.
Exactly.
Oh, I like that one.
I like that. That's beautiful.
That's really good. After human. I like it.
So, that brings a question of, well, so many questions. This is just a curiosity on my part. Do you, and I would guess because of the way your life ended, I mean, is it more enjoyable for you to be in spirit than in human form?
He's enjoying being in spirit, he says, but the way he understands a lot more about his life ending, he's come to a real place of clarity and resolution about that and peace. And he said this to you before, it looks like. So he really understands the purpose of it. He has done work around it. He has learned the lesson.
Well, I know that when we channeled you for the book, Eric, you talked about some of the things you miss about being human. And one of the biggest ones, Waxella, was that he missed taste. Like he can actually create an energy signature for a pizza and put it and taste it. But in his book, he talks about how senses change and how emotions change and how the physical body, when you obviously let it go, changed. And one of his first reactions after he crossed over was to look at himself and say, "Oh my God, where's my dick?" That's what he said. Sorry, but I had to say it. You edit it out if you want. But so he talks about how the things he misses. in the book, and there are some. I mean,
Physical touch. He misses.
yes.
Yeah, he's saying like hugs.
Right.
He's like reaching
Different
out,
idea.
and like that feels hard. And
Right.
he's saying all of you are just, because so many people feel, he's showing me kind of want to leave right now because it's hard on earth, right? So we want to go, we want to get out. We're trying to, even through meditation, we're trying to go to a different dimension. And there is things about being in a body that we will miss.
Yeah, he says that. He says that for people who do want to leave, a lot of times if they do take their lives, on the other side, they just are so remorseful for giving up the opportunity of the marvelous human experience. Number one. Number two, when you die, you are absolutely aware of every breaking heart, of all the grief you leave in your wake. And number three, sometimes you find out that, wow, I was supposed to stay and give birth to a girl who was going to cure cancer, find a cure for cancer. And now all these people are going to die of cancer needlessly. So there are all sorts of reasons not to, and it's very rare to have it in your contract to take your own life. Exceedingly rare.
He's not saying it in his contract, but he is saying that it is part of his contract to work in a larger way with humanity.
Yes.
Like, yeah, that's what he's saying. He wants to be clear about that. He wasn't saying about people it's part of their contract to take your own life.
Right.
He's calling that a choice point. So he wants to clarify.
Okay.
And he's also saying, this is important. He's showing me these waiting lists to come to Earth right now. There's literally waiting lists.
Wow.
So just so we know,
that's really encouraging. I love hearing that. It's not like in the spirit world, they're like, oh no, we're not going to that place.
Because we have an opportunity for really accelerated evolution right now.
Yes, we do.
Mm-hmm.
So Parker, a party of two. There we go.
He's saying for better or worse.
Yeah. Better or worse. Yeah.
And I think that was so beautifully said about how just be in your body, experience physicality, enjoy touching people and sharing with people and eating and all of the things that the senses do. I mean, that is our big bonus for being here. We get to go through a lot of trauma. We get to go through a lot of stuff maybe we don't want to. And we get these senses for such a brief time that we're here to really dig in and enjoy. And I have a sexuality coach who I've also interviewed for this summit, which I've never done before. And she just brings it in such a beautiful way, like, enjoy the body that you have, be in it, appreciate it, love it, share it, and all these wonderful things. And she just really it really makes a beautiful stand for being in a human body.
Yeah, I got a funny story that's sort of related to this, a prank, a typical Eric prank. A medium was having a session with a guy who wanted to know about whether, he asked the question, can spirits vicariously enjoy sex through that humans have? And all of a sudden her phone, which is off to the side, said, had the Siri voice, the nearest sex addiction clinic is X miles away. And it's like, that's the phone you had to push the button to get. She had that kind of old phone. So anyway, that was good. But also Eric talks a lot about, and you can back me up on this, Eric, or correct me, which you've been known to do. So suffering, a lot of us, we've had so much suffering. And so I personally have had a lot of trauma in my life. And sometimes the way that I have learned, like in my very difficult, very physically and emotionally abused childhood, I learned something, and I think Eric helped me with this, that, you need to find the value in the suffering. There is something there that's of value. There's a beautiful lesson. There's something to learn. And then when you express gratitude for it, thank you, the lesson, the value, then it's so much easier to just let go of the suffering, and Eric has a post in Channeling Eric called A Break from Being Human that talks about that. and how you sometimes have to just get a break and look at life as like at the chessboard, right? And instead of being the pawns being pushed around, look at it from above, like Courtney, you were describing that too, and see that you are the chess master and you are the ones that are moving the pieces on the table of this incarnation. And so that makes it a little bit easier to digest.
I was laughing because he said checkmate.
Checkmate, really.
Yeah.
We all get to that checkmate point.
Yeah. Just to, and no, that's exactly what he has said. When you were talking about the value in suffering and understanding what it serves for your life, he was like, it's like mining for gold. Like sometimes he was showing me, sometimes it takes a little while, right? Because when we suffer, we also have to process it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, or if we go through trauma, it can be in our body and we have to somehow do something to release it, right? But there's also a greater purpose, always.
Yeah. Okay. For in my example of my childhood, I mean, my father was very abusive. I mean, we're talking broken bones kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really grateful because of that, I learned how to become assertive, and I learned to be compassionate and nurturing. It made me become a better mother in the end, which is my most important role, frankly. So that's what I was grateful for. So those the nuggets of gold that took me a long time. I spent a lot of time in victimhood. Oh, poor me, until I realized those nuggets of gold were there to be found and dug up.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd love to ask another question. I was listening to an interview you did, Elisa, earlier. I can't remember what one, but where Eric was speaking about becoming an archangel, or the desire to become an archangel. And I thought it would be really interesting to learn from his perspective, what is the difference between angels, archangels, and ascended masters?
And he talks a lot about that in his book too. Angels, guardian angels, guides, all the difference. But go ahead, Eric.
Let me see. Okay, from one vantage point, it's almost like he wants us to be careful not to put angels, archangels, ascended masters on pedestals and see them as, more elevated, more like better than us, right? It's just like degrees of evolution.
Yeah, see, they don't like hierarchies. Like,
yeah, that's what he's trying to say. Yeah, he doesn't want,
or labels even.
Right.
Like, it's all about the kind of energy. Like Eric has evolved supposedly into archangel, but he does not like labels either. And so that label, I mean, implies pedestal and worship.
Yeah, he doesn't want that at all. That's very important, because it's very disempowering for humans, and we're coming out of this model of extreme disempowerment, right? He uses that, right? And we're moving beyond that. And we used to be, for thousands of years, he's showing me like us, and I'm not trying to put anybody down, but he's saying this, he's showing me like a specific church sermon, and how we're taught to view God as outside of us, and then these beings are elevated and we can worship them. So it's very important we come out of this disempowerment, and it's just degrees of evolution and different frequencies and energies is what I'm understanding. So it feels.
Yeah. So he said that one of the worst things that happened to humanity is others, whoever, oppressing us by teaching us that we are separate from the divine.
Yeah, that's what he's telling me right now. He's that's divine. Yeah, that's the extreme disempowerment.
Yes, we are whole and part of God. And I believe, so you probably can add a lot to this, that this age of Aquarius is that shift between contrast or polarity consciousness, idol worship, oppression, to unity consciousness, where survival is, is not based on survival of the fittest or being better or competing, but it's survival through unity and cooperation, collaboration, and realizing the divinity that we all have, that we all are, basically. But that's the age of Aquarius, I think, right?
Well, and it's Washayla, just so.
Oh, Washayla. Oh gosh.
It's okay.
Okay, well,
it's hard when you see it spelled.
Washayla. Well, you know my name.
Yes.
Washayla.
So yeah, I mean, ultimately at the highest level, we're all one. And I think the rest is just the evolution of getting back to that point, but it's not necessarily the goal or the destination. It's just a natural experience of evolution, because we were all one and we chose not to be one, to expand, right? Or to know
illusion of
ourselves.
separation, right?
Yeah.
The illusion of separation.
Yes. Yeah. So it's all, I think this is the time, whatever you want to call it, an age, the golden age, the age of ascension, the age of Aquarius. I've heard lots of names for it, but I do see it as that time where many people have the opportunity to expand their awareness that, oh, we are all deeply connected, even when we have differences of opinion, even when we don't look the same or talk the same or think the same or believe the same things, to allow ourselves to realize it doesn't matter. In fact, that's the beauty of it. If we all thought the same and looked the same and talked the same and did the same things, then there would be nothing to learn and grow from in this experience. So I think this is the time of expanding into the awareness, which is partially why I called this whole summit Activating Awareness, Well-being, Intimacy, and Self-Mastery, because that's what this time represents, activating, oh yeah, that's right, we're all connected. And sometimes, it's like the festering has to happen before the healing happens. So this is that time of like, wow, everything seems so extreme and divided and dualism, and everybody's on opposite sides of every conversation, whatever it is. And yet that's all leading us to greater togetherness.
Well, that's beautiful.
He's saying something about this chaos that we're experiencing on the planet, that there's a higher order that will come out of the chaos. He calls it a higher order of things. So it's almost like we just are walking around and we can only see a certain part of it. What we're experiencing and seeing as chaos. I'm not saying it's not painful, right? He wants to be clear, but there's a higher intelligence, and it will make way, it will clear out the old, making way for a higher order. A higher intelligence is at play here. So
that's hopeful.
It's really beautiful, actually.
Well, the way Eric describes the human experience can also shed a little light on this. He said that, and this is a la Conversations with God as well, that God, source, which is basically sentient energy that's self-aware, right? We are all one and whole of part of that. And basically could conceptualize love, like you can conceptualize hot, right? But he, she, it created extensions of itself, put it into human bodies, and I'm sure alien bodies too, so that it could have the experiential component. Like, you don't understand heat unless you feel cold, right? So that's what we're here for. The human experience is to basically totally understand and remember all aspects of love through contrast. In order to understand that aspect of love, forgiveness, you have to sometimes undergo betrayal. So, I love his metaphors, but he uses the metaphor of a brownie. You can conceptually understand a brownie by reading a recipe and looking at the picture, right? But you have to get in the kitchen here on Earth. You have to mix up the ingredients. Maybe it gets all in your hair. You put it in the oven, and maybe you burn your fingers, and then you cook it and you let it cool. You ice it and you take that bite, and that is when you truly, truly, truly know what a brownie is. You have to take the chemistry class and the lab people, in other words. So I really love his metaphors. I think that really helped me understand. Now, speaking of conversation with God, Neil Donald Walsh, if you really want to understand it in very simple and profound terms, go to YouTube and look up the little soul, S-O-U-L, and the sun, S-U-N, and put narration in it. So it's narrated. It's the child's book that Neil Donald Walsh channeled, basically from God, that helps us understand that the reason for polarity consciousness. It is absolutely beautiful. It's written for the audience of a child, so don't be put off by that. But it can really, you can really understand a lot about some of the toxic relationships you're in, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I love that book. Wonderful recommendation. Well, okay, so we're getting toward the end of our time together. I would love to just ask Eric, is there anything else you'd like to share before we close?
He's showing me, he's saying we move toward love by understanding what is not love. And that's part of this dimension, part of this realm. That's the purpose of it, is what he's kind of just adding on to you, Elisa, that we move toward forgiveness through betrayal. We move toward peace through chaos. And so, so this moving toward peace through chaos, we're experiencing this great, almost like he's showing me a tidal wave of chaos on the planet. And the purpose of it, the larger, greater purpose, is to people to wake up to peace within their own heart. Wow. And so he's incredible. It's incredible.
Oh, wow. That's just perfect for what you're trying to achieve, Shayla, right here.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. I love that. And thank you for putting that so eloquently. Okay, well, before we end, Elisa, you have a free gift for our viewers. That is Atlantis Scalar Service, super portal work with increased vibration. What is that all about?
Well, actually, I changed the name.
Okay.
To energy repair, protection, and enhancement. Basically, the body and your home and all the life forms in it can have open portals or energy tears due to trauma and other things that let in some dark energy, some really dark stuff. And you also have portals that should be open that should let out streams of information, abundance of wealth, of love, of health, creativity, that are snapped shut, also sometimes because of trauma, stress, etc. Same thing in the home, the land your home is on. And so what we do is we close the portals that should be closed, open the portals that should be open. We also raise the energetic vibration of all life forms in the home, and a bunch of other stuff. Revoke spiritual contracts that have already been fully honored, revoke and reverse curses, vows you've made. A lot of people in other lives have made vows of poverty, maybe they were a monk or a nun or whatever. So it really does entail a lot. So if you go to atlantiscalar.com and you go to shop, then categories, the categories start here is where everyone needs to start. We've got a lot of other things like relief from depression, relief from anxiety, a bunch of stuff, but a lot of times those are not even necessary. So to me, my message is the gift is free, but for those others, just do the start here first, the energy repair, protection, and enhancement, because sometimes that takes care of so many issues that you don't have to get any of the other Atlantis Scalar services. Worst businesswoman in the world, but it's the right, it's true. I mean, yeah. So that's
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And yeah, I'm sure if people want to continue, you'll have the information on how to do that when they start there.
Yeah, scalar energy is basically informational energy that never degrades over infinite distances. And I have a scalar energy transmitter and receiver. The intent script is there that I vocalize, and I have there, thought creates reality. So that intent, like Maybe the intent is to destroy DNA of all cancer cells. It goes straight to that person, reads the biofield of the name, the address, etc., and takes it to the cancer cells and destroys the DNA, etc. That's just one example.
Okay, wow, amazing. And that will be fun to explore. And Courtney, will you let us know again how to get a hold of you?
Absolutely. You can find me on CourtneyDillon.com, and I actually just started a YouTube channel, so I'll start putting stuff on there, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so very much. I've appreciated the information, and thank you, Eric, and for everybody helping us that is seen and unseen. This has been a wonderful conversation. I've enjoyed it so much, and I'm really grateful to all of you.
Thank you
Well,
so
we're
much,
grateful to you.
Washayla.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you,
Lisa.
Sheila, for being such a wonderful light worker.
Yeah,
And I love you,
amazing.
Eric. Thank you. Thank you,
He's-
Courtney. I love
He
you.
says thank you, and he's saying thank you to everybody, and he says, I love you, Mom.
Beautiful. To all listening, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a beautiful day or evening, and namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.